Let's start.
Okay, Alexandre. So welcome everyone. Welcome to this first webinar of Sensenelec on smart standards on training. Maybe you have attended to such webinar in the past. Now, since Sensenelec has decided to make that possibility open for technical committees from January 2025, it's now time to present you how smart standards will be happening at European level. So welcome everyone. This presentation will be made by representatives from different members from SEN and SENELEC, as well as representatives from CCNC. And I will start by making the introduction. My name is Etienne Caillot, and I'm working with AFNOR, the French standardization body. So maybe first, some information on how this webinar is going to happen. Please note that you are currently all muted in order to make that webinar happening smoothly. You will have a question and answer panel open in the Zoom platform to let you submit your question, and we are going to try to reply to every of your questions during the webinar. And please also note that we are going to record that webinar in order to use some of this material for different purposes. So let's talk shortly about the agenda for today. We are going to first quickly speak about the Strategy 2030 and Digital Transformation Initiative at European level within SEN and SENELEC. We will then say a few words about the online standardization development platform, which is the authoring tool used to develop standards. After that, we will see how smart standards will be implemented at SEN and SENELEC level. We will show how it will impact the current process of standardization. So then how you are going to apply and work with those smart standards within your technical committees. In order to make it very concrete, we will have a live demo in order to show you how it will work and to explain how it will take place within your technical committee. It's quite easy, frankly speaking. And after that, we will have question part where you will be the opportunity, or we will have the opportunity to address your question. We will explain the next steps for you, and we will finish for sure with by highlighting the different key points. So when it comes to SEN and SENELEC Strategy 2030, we are currently working under goal 2, which is our customers and stakeholders benefit from state-of-the-art digital solutions. So the purpose of that goal of the strategy is to produce standards fit for the digital era or digital economy, to transform the standard development process and transform business model for the standardization organization for the digital era. There is currently 2 key projects that are led by SEN and SENELEC in order to enable SEN and SENELEC to tackle this objective. One is the online standards development, the platform which is used to develop standards and create more structured content. And the second one is a smart standards project in the focus of today, and in which where a dedicated platform has been developed in order to embed new functionalities and to ensure that you will have even more benefits from using standards. And I guess I will give the floor to one of my colleagues.
Yes. Good day, everybody. I'm Julia from the production department at the media, and I'll provide you some further information on the Smart Standards project before we go to the details of the drafting process and the live demo of the Smart Authoring tool. Now, first, let me explain some basic facts about online standards development. As you just heard from Etienne, OSD is one of the key projects supporting the digital transformation. This authoring tool offers useful functionalities for fully digital and collaborative drafting process and technical committees. For example, it allows experts to work together seamlessly on the same document. And in addition, the drafting rules are already implemented in the OSD tool, and it supports their correct application. And that reduces the effort for training and manual editing work for secretaries or project leaders. You will later see a short comparison between OSD and the smart authoring tool. And now we get to the smart standards part and have a look on how the digital transformation impacts how standards are being developed and used. As you may already know, today many standards users invest significant amounts of time and effort in the extraction of the relevant information and data from standards. And they often do this via copy-paste of text snippets from PDF into standards and requirement management systems. So this Smart Standards project was put in place to transform the way standards are being developed. By putting the expertise of the working groups first, we aim to avoid failures or misinterpretation due to reverse engineering of the information from the standards. And the experts in the working groups are in a position to mark up the relevant content in their standards. And that takes us from what you see on the left, the document-centric view, to a more provision-centric standards development process. And the output is then machine-readable content that can be transferred and applied seamlessly into standards management systems. And this way, just as Etienne explained in the transformation key projects, this way the standardization community will be able to meet the needs of standards users in digital industries. Here you see a short overview of the SMART project. At first, the categories of SMART, which, by the way, stands for Standards Machine Applicable, Readable, and Transferable. And this development goes from a level 0 on the left, which means basically plain text on paper, to structured data based on XML, or in the future, eventually on data models, right, like RDF. And right now, we are working at SMART level 3, what means that essential granular information units, like the provisions, can be clearly identified and are available for further processing. And this identification can easily be achieved by marking up the provisions during the development of a standard. How that exactly works, you will see soon in the live demo. And as you had just before, this data generated via the markup of provisions will then allow standards users to integrate those provisions seamlessly into their digital workflows. And the details on the project scope is that we are planning to go live of the smart authoring tool in January. And the tool will then provide the provision markup as the basic smart functionality. And this tool may be used for standards drafting at Zenlec and will include the process steps from drafting until inquiry. And the following deliverables are going to be supported. It's the European standards, technical specifications, workshop agreements, and harmonization documents. And some document types are not subject to smart authoring yet. You will find them under Autoscope. And the ongoing development in 2025 is then supposed to provide more functionalities, like, for example, adding simple relations between the provisions or change record. And furthermore, the integration of the standards development process from inquiry until publication into the smart authoring tool is planned for Q4 in 2025. Here you can see a short timeline of the SMART project. At the moment, the implementation of the smart authoring tool, including the piloting phase, is almost complete, and the launch is planned for January. And the tool may then be used on a voluntary basis, starting with around 20 technical committees. And how exactly the process for drafting with the smart authoring tool will look like, you will hear now from my colleague Sebastian. Thank you very much.
Hi everyone, I'm Sebastian and I'm working at the in the production department at CCMC. And here we're going to talk, I'm going to talk to you through the smart process that we have in place for now, keeping in mind that this is for now, and we will have then the future processes that will be, we will be reviewing this, of course, as we go, and as the development happen within CCMC and also with the different tools that we use, different integrations and so on. So if we take the high level process, we do have here, this is high level to put you through from the work item creation up to the end of the inquiry. We will go into each part in details. The most important things is that what changes for you, for CCMC, and for the entire production of a work item. The first and foremost thing is that this is a new tool, so it's we're moving away from Word documents, and we are installing um, the the collaborative form of it. So as mentioned earlier by my colleagues as well, we do have there is the OSD that's already set up. Here we are talking about the smart authoring tool, very similar, yet a bit different. But the main point of it is that this is collaborative. It is online authoring that allows you different functionalities, such as the different commentings part, from the working group, then going to the member commenting for inquiries and so on. Specifically for Smart, what is an add-up to the OSD that does not exist yet is the provision markup. So allowing you to mark up the different provisions, the different part of the text that you want to be sure this is a requirement, this will be a recommendation, so that it leads to less ambiguity within the text within your standards. And that allows actually in the end user of being able to identify properly what are the different meanings within your document. That being said, you have this online platform where you will, well, all the drafting will be happening, all the marking up of the different kind of provisions will be happening. And the output of that is we will provide for the inquiry and later on formal vote as well, smart PDF, which will be including the actual text, but also the meaning behind it. So how it has been marked up as a provision. Was it a recommendation? Is it a possibility, or is this really a requirement? Apart from this smart PDF, there will be a new XML, and this XML will include as the PDF the actual text of the standard, but also the provision markup to indicate what is meant by what. What slightly changes in terms of translation, the translation body will still receive the traditional versions of the text, obviously, and also the additional smart versions of those texts. This is to better prepare them for the future. However, the smart version is not expected to be translated, meaning that we will not ask to have the translation in French and in German to be, oh, this is a recommendation, you need to translate these bits as well. No, this is we keep the original text, so the main text, and this one will still be translated. Just the smartified version of the tagging will not be expected to be translated. As for the inquiry, the process in itself, it doesn't change. We will be asking to, of course, be able to comment on the enriched content, meaning the different provision tagging, in order that everyone understands the same thing and we are sure we can then vote or comment saying, I do not agree with what has been tagged here. Like this is for me, this is not a recommendation. It should be something else. And therefore we can comment on that and that can be part of the voting and can be afterwards incorporated and changed within the text itself. So this comments will still be happening on the commenting template as we all know it. So now let's dive a bit more into details. Upon the creation of the project, what changes for the TC? For starters, a project can only be created in those platforms if a work item is existing. We allow the creation of those projects as from the 060 stage, so the preliminary work item, but it needs to exist in our database. If it does not exist, there is no way that we can create it on the online tool. Once the work item is created, for now, the only thing that we need at production would be we need the confirmation that TC wants to go the smart way, meaning that they want to start a smart project. So we need to have this information sent to smart@senseanalytic.eu so that we are able to mark it in our database and to follow up on it. And as soon as we do have that information, you do see the CCMC part underneath. We do our kitchen, let's say our internal kitchen, we do update our database. We go ahead and we create the working area, the project area within the smart authoring tool, ensuring all the different accesses and permissions are granted accordingly. And after that, the TC can start drafting with the addition of the provision markup, of course. Just a slight note, maybe just to go back to the drafting, the start of the drafting, we will not grant the possibility to have an export of whatever is already existing. It is best to start from scratch. Starting from scratch, copy pasting is working wonderfully within those tools, even for tables, even for equations. So this is really starting from a blank template, a template that already is structured based on our simple template. And therefore copying, pasting whatever text you have already worked on, a revision, let's say, of something that already happened in the past. But the copy pasting is working wonderfully, and it is up to the TC slash drafting body to go ahead and start the drafting process on that base. So after the creation of the project, we go directly up to the submission for inquiry, meaning that you are drafting within the smart authoring tool. Again, this is one source of truth, meaning that all the collaboration needs to happen on the tool if you want really to enjoy all the benefits of it. And this is also trying to avoid any misleading or any mistakes of not providing the right draft, like the latest versions and so on. So this is here, the drafting only happens in that authoring tool that you get access to. You do get a link. All the information will be provided to you, of course, by production. And the only main difference here is that when you actually want to submit, submission interface is not configured yet to support the submission through it. This is why we do ask that you inform us at production@select.eu that you are ready for the submission to the inquiry. And once this is done at CCMC, we do handle the project manually. We do check the quality of it. Our editors will go on with the editing within the tool as well. The different quality checks will be foreseen, and then we can move on and afterwards launch the inquiry. So now the submission to the inquiry, meaning here this is the launch to the inquiry. as mentioned before, we will not change the process as such. We will open the ballots as we are doing now. We will include the additional smart files to the ballot, of course, so that it can be shared afterwards and commented upon. We include as well any additional smart files that are on eTrans and on the FTP. By additional smart files, we do intend here, this is the PDF with the markup version, you know, the smart markups, and the XML as well with the markups. But the traditional files remain as well. This is additional. And as mentioned earlier, we will not circulate nor include any translation of the smart content itself. Just the text will be translated if we receive the translations on time, of course. So nothing changes on this side. Now, for the members, what is expected from them is that they can circulate the smart PDF to their national mirror committees. However, it was decided by the BTs to not circulate those smart versions to the public. And then, yes, the commenting will go through the table of comments, the one that we all know, the commenting form, for the good reason that there is a dedicated members commenting module, which exists already in the OSD, but has not yet been implemented within the smart authoring tool, meaning that we do not have all the functionalities in order to have the actual inquiry and commenting phase that are happening within the tool itself, which is why we do stick with the commenting form that we all know. And then afterwards for the TC, this is the thing that the comments will not be automatically imported within the smart tool. And if I will just maybe go back. Well, it doesn't matter. Just the last point I mentioned, so that since the comments are not automatically uploaded within the smart tool, then the resolution of the comments will happen a bit up to you, in the sense what would be recommended would be to have on, let's say, like a two-screen approach. You would have your document open in the smart authoring tool on one side, on one screen, and the commenting file on the other, so that you can either incorporate the comments as you go within the tool, or you do deal with the resolution on one screen, and then you add up the text on the other screen. And that is it for me. I hand it over. This is to Mats, right? Mats, you're muted.
And my microphone didn't want to be with me, so I'm sorry for that. And now my Zoom has locked for some reason. I'm not sure what's happening right now. This was intended to be a live demo. Let's see if I can get screen sharing to work. My controls are gone. Why are my controls gone? I seem to be locked out of my Zoom control panel. I'm not sure why. Oh, sorry for that. I'm not sure what's happening here.
Could someone else take over? Mats, can you ask for a remote?
This what the smart authoring tool would look like if you get one. This is a sandbox that we have set up with a fake document just for people to be able to test the tool. And you can also test the tool before going live with your committee. So this is what it would look like. And we saw a question, why are we doing something different than the OSD? And we've already talked about OSD and things like that. But if we open up the document, you will see that the user interface are actually very, very close to the OSD tool. It's the same front-end software, the Fonto XML tool that is used for both the OSD and the Zen Smart. So if you have seen OSD or used OSD, you will be very, very comfortable in this tool as well, and be able to work with everything in it. So you see on the left hand, you have a navigation. In the middle, you have your document. And on the right, you have different panels where you can either go quick searching for something, either an object or something in the document and stuff like that. There is also, of course, that famous XML information that we are actually trying to get to have that centric approach for saving that information. But let's talk a little bit of what's different then between the OSD and the Smart Authoring tool. And what we are trying to do is then to indicate where in the text we have provisions. So under Insert, we have now a button called Provision. So this is the main new thing that we can then do in the tool, and then we can find the part of the document. This document is, of course, purely nonsense. It's just something to have visible on the screen. So don't read too much into what's on the screen. But if I have identified that this part is a provision, I can then, of course, mark up that part by just right-hand click and draw my cursor over that, and then I click on my provision button, and I select this is going to be a provision. It has already then selected for me to be that this is a requirement. Of course, we have more than one provision, so I can then go in and say, well, in this case, it wasn't a requirement, it's maybe a recommendation, and so on. And why do we want this be something that you as a standard maker do? Well, because you have the best knowledge of the text that you have been writing in your document. So, of course, you have the best knowledge of what you meant to be a provision or not. If you were an keen observer, you saw that on my provision button, I also had something else called inline provision. What's an inline provision? That's something new. Well, it's actually exactly the same thing as a provision. We can now see in my next example, I have two sentences. They might be two different provisions. I want to mark them up as two different provisions. In that, I don't want to break up the part in the document that actually connects these two sentences. So in that sense, I want to do it to be an inline provision. You can see that they will still have this box around, and we will then work with what type of provision it is. But I want to send a signal that when it's printed out in the PDF, when you read the document, these two sentences should not be separated by a carriage return, would not be on two different lines. They would be still connected. So that's the only difference we have when it comes to an inline provision or a provision. There is no different of value that a requirement, a provision that is a requirement versus an inline provision, which is a requirement, should have different worth or something like that. They are totally the same thing. It's just you giving the possibility of being able to indicate that I don't want to break up this part from the rest of the text that has been put into my document. But of course, if you start from an empty document, you might want to put in that box first and then start to type your text. And that's all, of course, exactly the same thing as marking up your document in the beginning. You still would have your little toggle switch to change that. This is perhaps an permission. So I need to have a may in there somewhere for it to them to be a permission, I said. Could save them, of course. So that's how you go about and do these kind of things in the document. So that's actually the only difference from working in OSD when it comes to writing your standard. Of course, when you have written your standard, you might want to export out the information and read it as a PDF. Then under Tools, we have download options, and you can then see that we have either with provisions or without provisions if we want to have those kind of options when we are reading. There will also be, of course, the same for the XML source in here if we want to have the XML with the marked up provisions or without the marked up provisions. So you will have the possibility to extract the type of source material from the tool that you feel is needed for whatever you're going to continue doing with this, but that's also the important part to know about this tool. If for any reason you forget what the provisions are and what they could look like, we have also a small pilot demo document just describing the things that you can do, that you shall mark up a provision with the requirement and recommendations as recommendations and so on. We also put in an annex with the information about the different extracts from the internal regulation about when to use what and those kind of things, just to allow you to remember what to do. So this sandbox is available for everybody that wants to test. Just contact us and you will be given a login to this. But if you then continue to actually want to do your own smart standard, it will look very similar to what we're seeing here, but it will be dedicated to your document rather than a sandbox environment. So I think that would end my presentation of the tool, but I will continue to talk a little bit about the differences between the smart authoring tool and the OSD. So you've heard it before, some of these, but let's just talk a little bit more about this. So the OSD, that's developed by ISO and ISE. It's the drafting tool using the Fonto XML user interface. And you can, of course, allow commenting during the drafting and during the public inquiry. It does not provide machine-readable content in that sense. The OSD does not have that tagging option for provision. So you can't, in the XML, anywhere find a provision in that sense that then the smart authoring tool would do. And you should remember that the OSD tool is still under pilot phase in Zen. So it's not in production yet. And it's also in that sense a very close similarity then to the smart authoring tool. So what's the difference then with the smart authoring tool? Well, it's developed by Zen-Elec. It's still part of what ISO and ISE is doing. So it's actually one part of the smart branch that is going on in the collaboration between ISO and ISE. the same user interface. We have the font to XML for both of them, but it does not have that commenting functionality as Sebastian described. It will be the old commenting tablet, the one we know from all the years we have been using that one. But we can then, in the document, mark up the provision. We can generate that machine-readable content, quality assured by the TC itself, by the working group's expert, that it's actually the correct provisions that have been marked up. And this is, of course, then launching in January 2025, which is then only less than a month from now. And I think with that, I'm supposed to handing over to Etienne again. Is that correct?
You're always correct, Mats. We are almost touching to the end of the presentation. Maybe before launching the Q&A session, few information. So the next, you are here within a smart session, info session and training, but there are also some authoring training with the OSD that are provided by Sen and Senelec. The next session is next Monday, and you can register on Sen and Senelec webpage. There will be some additional session on Smart. The next one is in January, the one after in February, so basically every month. To get all those information, you will have the opportunity to go on the webpage of Sen and Senelec again. And as mentioned already, if you have any question, contact, or if you hopefully would like to be part of those work, please contact us at smart@senselec.eu. And just before opening the Q&A session, so the key message for you, officer or secretaries of technical committees, is that towards that new tool, this will help us to improve the quality of the drafting, the quality of the standards, and hopefully in the future to develop and embed new services that could facilitate your relation with standards. As Mats perfectly mentioned, from January up to 20 TCs, it's not that much, so please be part of SMART. And only 20 TCs will have the opportunity to start working with that tool until the inquiry. So please jump in. There is not so much space. In the scope, only homegrown, European homegrown deliverable, ENTS, or European Standards, Technical Specification, CWA, or HD. Once you have decided to be part of SMART, it's not possible to leave after you have submitted the draft for inquiry. It's for production reason. You will have some additional session, as I mentioned just before. Once you will have started and decided to be part of SMART, you could have dedicated coaching in order to support you on your journey towards using the tool and be familiar with those new functionalities that will support you in developing standards and tagging provision in them. As Mats perfectly highlighted before, this is not the end of the story. It's the first step, frankly speaking, and OSD and Smart are going to be integrated into the future in the same tool, so it will come. And interested to join, again, smart@sensenelec.eu. And I guess this last slide close the presentation for now. I have seen that there was a lot of question into the Q&A, and I don't know if we would like to review some of them or if we could open the floor since we still have 20 minutes to go. But I guess we could look at some of them.
How can we, do you see the content of the Q&A? Am I sharing the content?
Yes, maybe
Yes.
some of them highlighted your interest, or maybe some colleagues that have replied.
Alexander, you're not sharing.
Ah,
It's
sorry.
the
I
end of
was I
slide.
thought oh sorry. That was a question. So maybe I can Q&A is there. Okay. No, I don't know how to share that.
No, the Q&A is by default not shared.
Ah, okay.
It's your own panel that you see, but every speaker should see the Q&A. If you go to the panel at the bottom, there is that part called Q&A where you can see questions, but there are no open questions anymore.
Okay.
All of them were answered.
Okay. So do we have extra questions?
There is one. Could we have the presentation support? And I guess
Of
the
course.
reply is yes.
And we could have a video as well. We will put it on the website.
Therefore, if we have replied to every question on the chat and there is no hand raised, I guess we can close this webinar for today. And therefore, it's time for us to say thank you again for attending that meeting. Thank you again for being interested in the future of standardization. And we hope that you are going to be part of SMART and you are going to contact us at smart@sensenelec.eu in order to register and use that new tool in order to develop your standards in the near future, so January 2025. Thank you.